The rain hammered against our kitchen window as my husband Nathan's words echoed through the house like thunder. She's just a liability, Eliana. Look at her medical bills, her special needs tutoring, everything she costs us. My 10-year-old daughter Isabella sat frozen on the stairs, her small hands gripping the railing. Tears streamed down her freckled cheeks as she listened to her father destroy her world with casual cruelty. Nathan, she's our daughter, I whispered, my voice shaking with disbelief. Not anymore. Pack her things. She's going to your sister's place permanently. I won't support a child who gives us nothing back. Isabella's quiet sob pierced the air. My heart shattered watching my brilliant, creative daughter, who struggled with dyslexia but painted the most beautiful pictures, being reduced to numbers on a bank statement. As Nathan stormed upstairs, probably to pack Isabella's belongings himself, I knelt beside my trembling daughter. In that moment, something cold and determined settled in my chest. He had no idea what he'd just unleashed. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. Nathan's footsteps thundered overhead as he threw Isabella's clothes into garbage bags, not even suitcases. The disrespect burned through me like acid. Mommy? Isabella whispered, her voice barely audible. Did I do something wrong? I pulled her close, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent. No, sweetheart. You're perfect exactly as you are. But inside, my mind raced. Nathan earned twice my teaching salary as a construction company owner. He controlled our finances, our house, everything. He thought I was powerless. He was wrong. I knew things about Nathan's business that could destroy him. The illegal workers he hired under fake names. The safety violations he covered up. The tax evasion scheme he bragged about to his buddies during poker nights, thinking I wasn't listening. Go pack your special things, I told Isabella gently. Your art supplies, your favorite books. We're going to Aunt Lucy's, but this isn't goodbye. As Isabella hurried upstairs, I opened my laptop. If Nathan wanted to play with our daughter's life, I'd show him what a real liability looked like. That night at my sister Lucy's apartment, I tucked Isabella into the guest bed while my mind churned with plans. Lucy paced the living room, furious. He can't just throw out his own daughter like garbage, she raged. He thinks he can, I said quietly, opening my laptop. But he forgot I've been his business bookkeeper for 5 years. Every invoice, every contract, every shady deal, I had digital copies of everything. Nathan trusted me completely with his business records because he saw me as his quiet, submissive wife who wouldn't dare cross him. His first mistake was underestimating me. His second was hurting Isabella. I found the folder I needed, employee records. Pages of false social security numbers, fake identification documents, and workers paid cash under the table. Enough to trigger a federal investigation. Then I opened safety reports. Photos Nathan took of dangerous work sites, broken equipment, and building code violations, evidence he kept to blame workers if accidents happened. What are you doing? Lucy asked, peering over my shoulder. Evening the odds, I replied, uploading everything to a secure cloud storage. Nathan had declared war on our family. Time to show him how battles were really won. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. The next morning, I drove to Isabella's school to withdraw her temporarily. Principal Andrews looked concerned when I explained the situation carefully. Isabella's such a bright girl, she said sadly. Her art teacher says she's incredibly talented. Nathan can't see past her learning challenges, I said, my anger carefully controlled. But this isn't permanent. After handling Isabella's school paperwork, I made my first real move. From a coffee shop downtown, I called the Department of Labor's fraud hotline. I need to report illegal employment practices, I told the agent who answered. What type of violations? False documentation, unreported workers, tax evasion. I have extensive documentation. The agent took down Nathan's company information eagerly. Apparently, Morgan Construction had been on their radar before. My hands trembled slightly as I uploaded the files to their secure server. Each document I sent felt like a small victory for Isabella, who was spending her day at Lucy's apartment wondering why her father didn't love her. When I finished, I sat back and smiled grimly. Nathan's construction empire would crumble brick by brick, just like he'd tried to crumble our daughter's world. Nathan called me that afternoon, his voice tight with confusion and anger. Eliana, some building inspector showed up at 3 of my job sites today. Someone reported safety violations. Do you know anything about this? I kept my voice carefully neutral. Why would I know about your construction business? It's just weird timing. Right after our discussion about Isabella. You mean right after you threw our 10-year-old daughter away like trash? Silence stretched between us. Finally, Nathan's voice turned cold. She's not coming back, Eliana. Don't get any ideas about this changing my mind. I wouldn't dream of it, I lied smoothly. After hanging up, I checked the news websites. Nothing yet, but government investigations took time to make headlines. Isabella found me on Lucy's couch, staring at my phone. Mommy, are you okay? I wrapped my arms around her. I'm fine, baby. Just making sure some people face consequences for their choices. She didn't understand yet, but someday she'd know that her mother fought for her when her father gave up. That night, I made my second call, this time to the IRS Fraud Division. 3 days later, Nathan's panicked voice crackled through my phone at 6 a.m. Eliana, I need you to come home. The IRS is here with a warrant to search my office. They're asking about employee records and tax documents. I was making Isabella breakfast at Lucy's kitchen table. My daughter looked up from her cereal, worry creasing her forehead at Nathan's frantic tone. That sounds serious, I said calmly, buttering Isabella's toast. Have you done something wrong? Of course not. But they're treating this like some major investigation. They want 5 years of records. 5 years. Exactly how long I'd been managing his books. Maybe you should call your lawyer, I suggested helpfully. I already did. He's on his way, but... Eliana, I need those backup files from the home computer. Can you come get them? I'm busy taking care of our daughter, I said, watching Isabella's small smile. You know, the one you called a liability? Nathan's breathing grew heavy. This isn't the time for games. You're right, I agreed. Games are for children. Like the 10-year-old you abandoned. I hung up and turned to Isabella. How about we visit the art museum today? A week passed before the first news story broke. Isabella was at Lucy's apartment doing homework when I saw the headline on my phone, Local Construction Company under Federal Investigation. The article mentioned extensive financial irregularities and potential immigration violations. Nathan's company photo stared back at me from the screen, the same smug expression he'd worn when he called Isabella a liability. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan, "This is destroying everything I built. If you know something about these investigations, we need to talk." I deleted the message without responding. That evening, Isabella showed me her latest drawing, a house with 2 windows that looked like sad eyes. "It's the house missing us," she explained softly. "Houses can be rebuilt," I told her, smoothing her dark hair. "But families should be forever." She nodded solemnly. "Daddy doesn't think so." "Some people make terrible mistakes," I said carefully. "And sometimes they have to live with the consequences." Outside, it started raining again. Through Lucy's window, I watched the water wash the streets clean and thought about new beginnings. Nathan appeared at Lucy's apartment on a gray Thursday morning, looking haggard and desperate. I answered the door while Isabella hid in the back bedroom. Eliana, my lawyer thinks someone with inside knowledge is feeding information to the authorities. Someone who had access to my business records. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. That's a serious accusation. The timing is too convenient. Right after I made my decision about Isabella, my whole company gets scrutinized. Maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. Nathan's eyes narrowed. My lawyer says if I can prove someone leaked confidential business information, I can press charges for corporate sabotage. Interesting, I said mildly. Of course, anyone pressing charges would need to explain why they had illegal activities to hide in the first place. We stared at each other for a long moment. Nathan's jaw tightened as understanding dawned. You're playing a dangerous game, Eliana. I'm not playing anything. I'm protecting my daughter from someone who called her worthless. She can come home, he said quietly. If you make this stop. Too late for that, I replied, closing the door in his face. The second wave of consequences hit Nathan harder than the first. Lucy brought me coffee while I read the morning news on my laptop. Federal agents raid construction company offices, read the headline. The article mentioned seized computers, boxes of evidence, and ongoing criminal investigation. My phone rang constantly, Nathan calling with increasing desperation. I let every call go to voicemail. Isabella sat beside me, carefully coloring a picture of butterflies. Mommy, why does Daddy keep calling if he doesn't want us? Sometimes people realize too late that they've made terrible mistakes. Will he say sorry? I looked at my daughter's hopeful face and felt my heart break a little. Some apologies can't fix what's been broken, sweetheart. The afternoon brought more news. 3 of Nathan's biggest clients had canceled their contracts, spooked by the federal investigation. His business was hemorrhaging money and reputation. Lucy sat down across from me. Do you think you're going too far? I thought about Isabella crying on the stairs, about Nathan stuffing her clothes into garbage bags, about him calling her a liability. Not nearly far enough, I said quietly. Nathan cornered me at Isabella's school pickup, his usual confidence replaced by panic. Eliana, I'll give you anything. The house, half my assets, whatever you want. Just make this investigation disappear. You think I have that kind of power? I asked, genuinely amused. Don't play innocent. My accountant says whoever leaked this information knew exactly which files would cause maximum damage. I adjusted my purse strap, keeping my expression neutral. Maybe you should have thought about that before you heard Isabella. She can come home tomorrow. I'll pay for private tutoring, therapy, whatever she needs. Now she's worth the investment. Nathan grabbed my arm, his desperation making him reckless. My business is dying, Eliana. 23 employees are about to lose their jobs because of this. I pulled away from his grip. You should have considered the consequences before you decided our daughter was disposable. What do you want from me? I looked at him for a long moment. Nothing you can give, I said finally. Some things can't be fixed with money or apologies. As I walked away, I heard him call my name, but I didn't turn around. 3 weeks after Nathan's world started crumbling, a process server knocked on Lucy's door. I signed for the envelope while Isabella practiced piano in the living room. Inside were custody documents. Nathan was formally requesting joint custody of Isabella, claiming I had alienated her against him and was using her as a weapon in our marital disputes. I laughed out loud at the irony. He'd literally thrown her away, and now he wanted legal rights to her. Lucy read over my shoulder. Can he actually get custody after what he did? He can try, I said, already mentally composing my response. But family court judges tend to frown on parents who abandon their children. That evening, I sat down with Isabella to explain what was happening. Daddy wants the court to say he gets to see you sometimes, I said gently. Isabella's crayon stopped moving across her coloring book. Do I have to? What do you want, sweetheart? She was quiet for a long time. Finally, she looked up at me with serious eyes. "I want to stay with you. Daddy said I was too much trouble." "Then that's what we'll tell the judge." The story exploded across local news when a whistleblower, one of Nathan's former employees, came forward with additional evidence. The evening broadcast showed federal agents carrying boxes from Nathan's offices while reporters detailed the charges. Isabella watched from Lucy's couch, her small face confused. "Why are there police at Daddy's work?" "Sometimes people break rules, and the police have to investigate," I explained carefully. The news anchor mentioned potential prison time for immigration violations and tax evasion. Nathan's mugshot from his arrest that morning filled the screen, unshaven, hollow-eyed, nothing like the confident man who'd called his daughter worthless. My phone buzzed with messages from neighbors, friends, and Isabella's teachers, all expressing shock and support. Nobody seemed surprised that I'd left him, but everyone was horrified by what he'd done to Isabella. "Mrs. Morgan," said one voicemail from Isabella's art teacher, "please know that Isabella is welcome in my after-school program anytime. That little girl has such talent, anyone who can't see her worth doesn't deserve her." I saved the message to play for Isabella later. She needed to hear how valued she was by people who truly mattered. Nathan's assets were frozen pending the criminal investigation, which meant his expensive lawyer could no longer afford to represent him. The custody hearing was postponed while he scrambled to find legal aid. I met with my own attorney, Maria Santos, in her downtown office. "Your husband's financial situation works in your favor," she explained. "Courts prefer stability for children, and right now, you're the stable parent." "What about his claims that I'm alienating Isabella?" Maria smiled grimly. "Hard to alienate a child from someone who literally told her she was a liability and kicked her out. We have your sister as a witness to his exact words." I pulled out my phone and played a recording I'd made the night Nathan exploded. "She's just a liability, Eliana. Look at her medical bills, her special needs tutoring, everything she costs us." Maria raised an eyebrow. "You recorded this?" "I record everything now. Learned my lesson about documenting important conversations." Smart woman. This recording alone should secure sole custody. As I left her office, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Isabella deserved a parent who saw her worth, not her cost. Dr. Rebecca Walsh, Isabella's learning specialist, called me with surprising news. "Mrs. Morgan, I've been following the news about your husband's arrest. I wanted you to know that I'm prepared to testify on Isabella's behalf if needed." "Testify about what?" "About the conversation I had with your husband last year. He asked me to evaluate whether Isabella's learning challenges were fixable, or if you should consider other arrangements for her education." My blood ran cold. Other arrangements? He specifically asked about residential facilities for children with learning disabilities. When I explained that Isabella's dyslexia was very manageable with proper support, he seemed disappointed. He never told me about this conversation. I documented everything in her file. I was concerned about his attitude toward her challenges. No loving parent talks about their child as a problem to be solved or eliminated. After hanging up, I sat in Lucy's kitchen, processing this new information. Nathan hadn't just spontaneously decided Isabella was a liability, he'd been planning to get rid of her for over a year. Isabella found me there an hour later, tears streaming down my face. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong anymore, baby," I said, pulling her close. "Everything's exactly as it should be." The family court hearing took place on a crisp Monday morning. Nathan sat across the courtroom with his court-appointed attorney, looking defeated and desperate. Judge Harrison reviewed the case files with growing displeasure. "Mr. Morgan, you're asking for joint custody of a child you evicted from your home just 2 months ago?" "Your Honor, I was going through a difficult financial period and made an emotional decision." "You told a 10-year-old girl she was a liability and packed her belongings in garbage bags," the judge interrupted, reading from Lucy's witness statement. Nathan's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "My client regrets his words and actions, Your Honor." Regret doesn't undo trauma to a child. Dr. Walsh testified about Nathan's inquiries into residential facilities. Isabella's teachers spoke about her artistic talents and gentle nature. Lucy described the night we arrived at her apartment with Isabella sobbing about being unwanted. When the judge asked to speak with Isabella privately, I watched my daughter walk confidently into the chamber. She emerged 20 minutes later with a small smile. "I told her I want to stay with you," Isabella whispered to me. Judge Harrison's ruling was swift and decisive: sole custody to me, with Nathan granted supervised visitation only if he completed parenting classes and psychological counseling. A parent's primary obligation is to provide unconditional love and security, she stated firmly. Mr. Morgan failed catastrophically in that obligation. With custody secured, I focused on rebuilding our life. Lucy helped me find a small but cheerful apartment near Isabella's school, with a big window in what would become Isabella's art room. Isabella stood in the empty space, her eyes bright with possibility. "Can I paint the walls?" "Any color you want, sweetheart." She chose sunny yellow, the color of hope, she said. Nathan's construction company was finished. Federal charges, canceled contracts, and legal fees had destroyed everything he'd built. His assets were being liquidated to pay fines and victim compensation. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who'd called his daughter a financial liability had lost everything, while the daughter he discarded was helping me discover strength I never knew I had. Isabella's teachers marveled at her improved confidence. Her art was becoming more vibrant, her reading scores slowly climbing. Without Nathan's constant criticism about her expensive needs, she was blossoming. "You're different now, Mommy," she observed one evening as we painted her new room together. "How so?" "Stronger. Like you're not afraid anymore." She was right. Nathan had controlled me through fear of financial insecurity, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. But protecting is. "Eliana," it began, "I know you're responsible for everything that's happened to me. I've had time to think in here, and I realize I underestimated you completely. I almost threw it away, but morbid curiosity made me continue reading. You destroyed my life systematically and perfectly. The evidence you provided was so comprehensive that my lawyer said it looked like someone had been planning this for years. Were you? Were you waiting for an excuse to ruin me?" I laughed at his paranoia. I'd simply used the truth against him. His own illegal activities and cruel words had been his downfall. "I want to see Isabella. I have rights as her father, even from in here. I can petition the court for communication privileges." The letter went on to demand I admit my role in his legal troubles and threaten more custody battles when he was released. I folded the letter carefully and filed it with the others I'd been collecting. Nathan still didn't understand that this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. Isabella deserved to know that someone had fought for her worth when her own father couldn't see it. On a quiet Saturday morning, Isabella looked up from her cereal and asked the question I'd been dreading. "Mommy, did you make Daddy go to prison?" I set down my coffee, choosing my words carefully. "Daddy went to prison because he broke laws. Important laws about how to treat workers and pay taxes. But you knew about it, didn't you?" My brilliant daughter was too perceptive for simple explanations. "Yes, I knew about it." "Why didn't you tell anyone before?" "Because I was scared. And because I thought if I was a good wife and kept quiet, Daddy would be a better person." Isabella stirred her cereal thoughtfully. "But he called me a liability." "Yes, he did. And that's when I realized that staying quiet wasn't protecting anyone, especially not you." "So you told the truth about Daddy's company?" "I told the truth to people who could make sure he faced consequences for his choices." Isabella nodded solemnly. "Good. People should face consequences when they hurt kids." Her simple wisdom amazed me. At 10 years old, she understood justice better than her father ever had. "Do you think I'm a bad person for what I did?" I asked. "No," she said firmly. "You protected me. That's what mommies do." The court-ordered visitation finally took place at a family services center, with a social worker monitoring every interaction. I brought Isabella reluctantly, unsure how she'd react to seeing Nathan after 8 months. He looked older, grayer, wearing an orange jumpsuit that made him seem smaller somehow. When Isabella walked into the room, his face crumpled with emotion. "Bella, baby, I've missed you so much." Isabella hung back near the social worker, polite but distant. "Hi, Daddy. I brought you something," Nathan said, pulling out a drawing he'd made. Stick figures of a family under a rainbow. It was childish, desperate. "Thank you," Isabella said quietly, but she didn't move closer. Nathan tried to engage her in conversation about school, her art, her friends. Isabella answered in short sentences, clearly uncomfortable. Finally, Nathan's voice broke. "Bella, I'm sorry. I said terrible things, and I hurt your feelings. I was wrong." Isabella looked at him for a long moment. "You said I was too much trouble. I was angry and scared about money. I didn't mean it." "But you did mean it," Isabella said with devastating honesty. "You packed my clothes in garbage bags." Nathan had no answer for that truth. The visit ended with awkward hugs and promises to write letters. 3 months later, Nathan's former business partner, Carlos Rivera, contacted me with shocking information. "Mrs. Morgan, I've been following the news about Nathan's arrest. There's something you should know about the night he kicked Isabella out. We met at a coffee shop downtown." Carlos looked nervous, fidgeting with his cup. "Nathan had been planning to divorce you for months," he said. "He hired a private investigator to find dirt on you, trying to prove you were an unfit mother." My blood chilled. "What did he find?" "Nothing. You're actually an amazing mom." But Nathan was furious about spending money on Isabella's tutoring and therapy. He said she was dragging down the family budget and he wanted to get custody of her so he could put her in a state facility. The room spun around me. A state facility? For kids with learning disabilities. He researched places where the state pays the costs. He figured if he could prove you were unstable, he could get custody and then claim Isabella was too difficult for him to handle. "Why are you telling me this?" Carlos's face hardened. "Because I have a daughter with autism." When Nathan started talking about Isabella like she was damaged goods, I realized what kind of man I'd been in business with. "You were the whistleblower," I realized suddenly. He nodded. I couldn't let him hurt that little girl anymore. Armed with Carlos's information, I requested another custody hearing to present new evidence about Nathan's premeditated plan to institutionalize Isabella. The private investigator's report, which Carlos had secretly copied, revealed Nathan's disturbing strategy. He'd planned to claim I was mentally unstable, win custody through lies, and then declare Isabella unmanageable, to justify placing her in a state-funded residential facility. Judge Harrison reviewed the documents with visible disgust. "Mr. Morgan, you attempted to manipulate the legal system to abandon your daughter in a state institution?" Nathan's new attorney, he'd somehow afforded better representation, tried to minimize the evidence. "Your Honor, these were preliminary inquiries during a stressful period. These are detailed plans to defraud the court and abuse a vulnerable child," the judge snapped. The investigator's report included Nathan's own words: "If I can prove Eliana is crazy, I get the kid, dump her in state care, and keep all my money. Isabella costs too much to maintain at home." Isabella sat beside me, her small hand gripping mine as she heard her father's true intentions read aloud. I watched my daughter's face harden with a maturity no 10-year-old should need. "Some people are just broken inside," she whispered to me. Judge Harrison terminated Nathan's parental rights entirely. "Mr. Morgan, you are no longer legally recognized as this child's father. Your actions constitute child abandonment and attempted fraud." That night, Isabella asked for paper and pencils. She worked quietly at our kitchen table for an hour, then handed me a letter. "Can you mail this to Daddy? Are you sure you want to send him something?" She nodded firmly. "He needs to know how I feel." The letter, written in Isabella's careful handwriting, was devastating in its simplicity. "Dear Nathan, I can't call you Daddy anymore. The judge said you're not my father now. That makes me sad but also relieved. Fathers are supposed to love their children no matter what. You loved money more than me. I know you planned to put me in a place for kids whose families don't want them. Mommy didn't tell me. I heard the judge reading your papers. Now I understand why you called me a liability. You never saw me as your daughter. I forgive you because holding anger hurts me, not you. But I don't want to see you again. I have a family now, Mommy, Aunt Lucy, my teachers, and friends who think I'm wonderful exactly as I am. You missed out on knowing an amazing person. That's your loss, not mine. Goodbye forever. Isabella. I mailed it the next day, proud of my daughter's strength and clarity. 6 months later, Isabella's art teacher, Mr. Vincent Rosario, asked if he could take Isabella to a special exhibition at the City Art Museum. Their mentor-student relationship had grown into something deeper, a genuine father-figure connection. Vincent saw Isabella's talent and nurtured it without expecting anything in return. He helped her enter a youth art competition, where her painting, Phoenix Rising, won first place. The piece showed a colorful bird emerging from gray ashes, her personal story of renewal. Mommy, Mr. Rosario says I could be a real artist someday, Isabella beamed after the award ceremony. You already are a real artist, sweetheart. Vincent approached me afterward. Isabella is extraordinary, Mrs. Morgan. Her resilience and creativity are remarkable. You've raised an incredible daughter. Watching them together, Vincent praising Isabella's technique while she glowed with pride, I realized this was what a healthy father-daughter relationship looked like. Supportive, encouraging, built on seeing the child's inherent worth. Nathan had never looked at Isabella the way Vincent did, with genuine admiration and protective pride. Thank you for believing in her, I told Vincent. Thank you for fighting for her, he replied. She told me you saved her from someone who wanted to throw her away. You're her hero. A year after Nathan's conviction, a local newspaper wanted to interview me about domestic financial abuse and child abandonment. The reporter, Amanda Torres, was writing a series about women who'd fought back against abusive partners. What made you finally take action? She asked during our interview at a quiet cafe. When he called my daughter a liability, I realized I'd been enabling his cruelty by staying silent about his illegal business practices. I stopped protecting someone who didn't deserve protection. Some people might say you went too far, that exposing his business destroyed many people's livelihoods. 23 employees lost jobs, I acknowledged. But they found new work with honest companies. My daughter would have lost her entire childhood to an institution if I hadn't acted. What would you tell other parents facing similar situations? I thought carefully. Document everything. Trust your instincts. And remember that protecting your child sometimes means making hard choices that other people won't understand. The article ran with the headline, Mother's Justice: How One Woman Saved Her Daughter from Financial Abuse. Isabella cut it out and put it in her scrapbook next to her art award. You're famous, Mommy, she said proudly. We're survivors, I corrected. That's better than famous. 2 years after that terrible night when Nathan destroyed our family, Isabella and I stood in our new home, a small house I'd bought with my settlement from Nathan's liquidated assets. Isabella had painted a mural on her bedroom wall. A phoenix rising from ashes, surrounded by flowers and rainbows. It represents us, she explained to Vincent, who'd come to see her latest artwork. We got burned, but we grew back stronger and more beautiful. Isabella was thriving in middle school now, her confidence unshakable. Her dyslexia no longer defined her, it was simply one aspect of her unique learning style. She'd started a support group for other kids with learning differences, teaching them that different didn't mean less valuable. Nathan was serving 5 years for tax evasion and immigration violations. His letters had stopped coming after Isabella's devastating response. According to Carlos, Nathan spent his time in prison still insisting he'd been set up by a vindictive wife, never accepting responsibility for his choices. Do you ever regret what you did? Isabella asked me one evening as we gardened together. I thought about the question seriously. I regret that your father forced me into that position. But I don't regret protecting you. Good, she said firmly. I'm proud of you for being brave. As the sun set over our garden, I watched my daughter, confident, creative, loved, and knew every difficult choice had been worth it. Sometimes the phoenix must burn completely before it can rise stronger than ever before. We had risen. We had won. And we would never be anyone's liability again. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.